Hello, and welcome back to my happy place, which is what I call my craft room. Today, I'm going to be recreating a card that I made for a hop last week. I had so much fun doing the monochromatic color scheme that I wanted to try it with different colors, but I'm going to switch up the dies and the stamp. This is a turnabout stamp in small polka dots. I'm going to change it to large polka dots, and I'm going to change the color scheme to be more of the red to orange using Brickyard, Sorbet, Grapefruit, and Nectar from Concord and Ninth. I'm also going to change the sentiment to the "You Are Amazing" to create a new, totally different card. All right, so first thing we should do is line up our turnabout stamp with the jig. So if there's anyone out there that's new to the turnabout stamp, there is on the jig a 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you know exactly how many rotations you need to do with the stamp. It is sticky, and you can stick it in the corner of your MISTI. And then there is an A2 marker on the jig, so you know where your card can go down. All right, fresh, clean piece of white A2 cardstock. Lining that up. Oops, I did not stick the landing on the one. I'll line that up with the corners there. There we go. Okay, now we have our stamp and its guide. This is a very well-loved polka dot stamp, so excuse the pinkiness of it, but it has been used. So now we figure out where the dots go down on our guide. There we go. Now the guide has this X, and so does the jig, and you can line up the X to get it all straight, like so. Pick up our stamp and take off our guide. Not too hard. And now we are ready to start our turnabout. So I'm going to start first with Brickyard, since it's the darkest color, and just work my way down the hues. Red ink does tend to be the culprit in the staining of your stamp. So I'm expecting for it to continue to be getting darker pink with all of these different reds. Voila, we got polka dots. That was easy. Okay, next we need to clean off our stamp. We don't want to get our colors all mixed together. Now that that's basically cleaned off, now we do a rotation. Pick this up and we turn it to 2. There we go. I think next in the hues is the Sorbet. There we go. I might stamp that one twice because you have a little bit of color pooling, but I know that will dry back nicely too. I like to have the colors really stand out. Okay. Yeah, that looks great. So we just do the same step 2 more times. Clean off our stamp, turn our jig, and ink up our stamp. And there we go. We have a lovely card base. Quick and simple, all in the colors that will coordinate with our paper. So I'm going to clean off my jig also. I try to just pat it because I don't want to take the sticky off. Just want to get the ink. And I try to stay on the edges too because it's really the middle that you want to be sticky to hold your paper. Okay, so now I think what we want to do is cut this panel down a little bit so that we can mat it onto the card. A wavy scallop from the greenery. That might be kind of cute. Let's see what that would look like. Yeah, I kind of like that. Let's see what else. I really like the shape of this octagon as well. Just to make it a little more different. Less birthday card looking. That could be cute. Yeah. Let me go down one more size. Yeah. Well, that's about perfect. I think I like the smaller. Yes, indeedy. Okie dokes. So now what I think I'll do then is die cut this out. And it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. That's just me being a little bit anal retentive. Okay. Voila. Oh, that's super cute. All right, here comes the more tedious part. I'm going to cut this out, but I want each word to be a different color. And I don't really want to chop it out 4 times. So I'm going to try and just cut cardstock to go over each word just to cover the die in specific spots. All right, so my colors that I had picked were Brickyard, Sorbet, Grapefruit, and Nectar. And I have all those colors here. And I have an abundance of scraps in each color. So I'm going to try and just find chunks that work for me. All right, so we want to find a scrap that will work covering our word without letting it hang over too much, because you don't want your paper to get bumped going through the die cut machine or it'll shift everything around. So I think that fits about perfectly. I'm going to add a piece of tape just to make sure it stays still. And I'm going to cut that one out in Brickyard. Grab all the little bits and bobs here. We have our U. I don't know that I'm going to use the silhouette, but I like the option, so I'm going to hang on to it. It'll help me place the word onto its shadow layer easier too, because it controls all the spacing. So we have our U in Brickyard, and we got all our gibbles clearing down the way. All right, now we need our R in Grapefruit. Oh wait, no, Sorbet. I like using up my scraps as much as possible. I get a lot of mileage out of one sheet of paper usually. Okay, there's our R. Next is our Grapefruit, and it's going to be a maze. That's not quite big enough. I do have this one. And that's about perfect. Crop it down right about here. This kind of stuff is always so relaxing. You just pick your colors and let all of the dies and stamps do the hard work for you. Yeah, I do want to hang on to this as a template. If I don't use the silhouette on a card later, I could always use it as a stencil too, and ink blend the sentiment directly onto the card. All right, let's get all the gibbles one more word. Zing. I'm going to do that in Nectar. All right. Where's the chunk of Nectar that'll work? We have the G descender, so we have to have kind of a wider piece for that one. Well, I might be chopping into a bigger piece here because we don't want to mess up that G. Way too long. Like I said, I don't want anything bumping in the die cut machine or you're gonna have shifting. Okay. Piece of tape, hold her steady. Last die cut. There we go. Got, ooh, don't forget your tittle. Okay. So I am going to cut out a shadow layer. And I'm going to do that on vellum. But I want to give the vellum a little bit of fun sparkle. So I will have a trick for that in a second. Let's get our shadow layer cut out. Okay, well, we might have to run this through a couple of times. Vellum sometimes can be finicky with the die cut machine. Oh, we got a good cut. Yay. That worked out beautifully. So I like to give it a little bit of its own sparkle. To do that, I am going to pull some of the Tim Holtz Distress Spritz in the antique linen. It's a very light color, and it leaves behind kind of a gold shimmer. I'm going to shake it up really good because all of that sparkle seems to settle to the bottom. I think we got a good incorporation. I have my splatter box. Give this a spritz. Okay. Now I'm going to set that aside for a little bit and let that just all dry. In the meantime, we can start assembling. I'm actually going to use the die for this. We're going to reassemble it in its die to get the correct spacing. That'll fall in there. Okay. Now what I do is I take some strips of low-tack tape and go over the dies with that, making sure to get the dot on the eye in there. And I should be able to pick up the whole sentiment. So now we have our sentiment and our sparkly vellum. You see the gold shine kind of splattery on it. So now I need to be able to flip the words over to glue them down. Here is where the magic of press and seal comes into play. Sticky enough that it will have a tighter grip on the paper than the low-tack tape. So you put that sticky side down. Give that a nice press. Turn it over. Now, should be able to remove tape. The sentiment will stay in place. I'm worried about the dot on the eye, though. That's going to be the tricky part. We'll see here. Nope. No problem. Stayed right in place. Let's grab our glue and start some gluey dots. Up and down. Oh, shoot. I am making a mess. Okay. Here's the fun part. Might be easier next time I do this to stick the vellum down on a sticky mat. I am happy with that placement. So I am going to carefully start lifting this up. Now, a fresh piece of press and seal can be very sticky. So, and I have torn paper before with it. I think I did a little bit over here. But if you go real slow, we did it. We got that all glued down in the right spot. All right, so now you gotta be very careful to get your glue just, well, just behind your letters, because glue will show through vellum. Putting the gold spray on it, though, will make it a little less translucent, so there's some forgiveness there. Especially because of all how the spray dried kind of splattery. We're gonna place that right in the center. Over just a little bit. There we go. All right, I'm going to give that a good press with my magnets. Give that just a second. While that is getting dry, I need to figure out what color. I think I like the light. So I'm going to cut out an A2 card out of my Nectar. A2 sizing is 5.5 inches by 4 1/4 on one side. So you cut it to 5.5 and you fold it at the 4 1/4 score line from just your average 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So you're basically cutting your 8.5 by 11 in half and then folding it at the half mark. You can get 2 cards out of each piece of paper. So I don't use a score buddy. Those frustrate me. So I have a cutter with a score blade on it. Get it to the 4 1/4 mark, which is about right there. Give it a good score. Fold it over. And then I have my folder. I'm going to give it a good press. Yeah, I want to give it a little dimension, so I'm going to pop it up. I have some 1mm foam tape. I've never been the most coordinated person on earth, so I always usually kind of fumble my way through getting my tape on straight, which is fine. It goes on the back of the card, but I like clean lines, but it is what it is. I glued the back of my foam tape to give myself a little bit of wiggle room, because if you've worked with foam tape before, when it goes down, it's on. So the liquid glue gives you just a little bit of time. You could pick it up, reposition it if you needed to. Yeah, and I'm going to embellish this a little bit. I think it needs a little bit of bling. All right, so I have a few options. Let's take a look at each one. I have some gold, which is pretty because it would enhance the gold in the vellum. I have this one from Catherine Pooler called Mount Pearl, which is what I'm kind of leaning towards. It's white but also iridescent, and I think that would pick up the peachy in the card. Then I also have from Simon Says Stamp the Starshine, which is just a clear, well, not clear, I guess kind of silvery, but I like to compare each one and see how I feel about each thing. Actually, I'm kind of leaning more towards the Starshine. I didn't think I'd like it, but when I put it down, this almost like disappears And this one stands out more. But I don't like the silver with the gold. And I don't know that I like the enamel tones. So yeah, I am going to go with the Mount Pearl because I think that does give it just a little bit, not a lot. Well, these flat ones give a little bit more, don't they? I only have one size. Oh no, I have two sizes. All right, we'll get these down. And now while I'm contemplating this, I'm not really liking how bare the edge is. So I might try to cut out a little frame and see how that looks. Sometimes as I'm finishing up a card and just seeing that it just needs something a little more. Yeah, I think it does. I think it needs something a little more. I was hoping that putting the bling down was going to be where we end, but we can go a step further. Just for fun, let's just give it a try. I have this little frame from Christina Warner, and it cuts out just the edge. A very thin frame. I'm thinking we'll just give it that finishing touch. Thinking I'll probably do that in the champagne gold. All right, I had to go to my big die cut machine for this frame because my little one wouldn't be able to handle it all. Yeah, I think that does really, boy, I was way off with that. I'm going to put a little bit of gold on here just to give it more of a polished, finished off look. Sometimes just giving it a little bit of an edge is what really finishes off a card. All right, so here's where I began with a card that I made last week that was very clean and simple, very easy to do. Wanted to essentially case it from myself and recreate it. So I went with a different turnabout stamp and a different sentiment, and we actually kind of ended up with two very different cards. And I like them both. I like the monochromatic. I think it's very easy and it pleases the eye. Let's just say that. It's not harsh, and I like that. So there's our completed card. Please join me again. I will be trying to get another one of these videos out soon. Life gets crazy sometimes, so I will see you next time.